Welcome back to the Deadology Podcast. From Pencil Hill Studio, New Paltz, New York, I'm your host, Howard Weiner. Tonight is the 20th episode of the podcast. It's December 19th, 2023, and it's Tuesday night, 11 p.m., which means it's time for your weekly dose of Deadology. This week, we're going to be taking a look at a show, a magnificent show from Binghamton, Broome County Arena, April 12th, 1983. The reason I picked this particular show is I recently have spent a lot of time on the 1983 Fall Tour on its 40th anniversary. I wrote a book, The Grateful Pilgrimage, where I went back and visited all the venues, listened to the shows and the venues on the anniversary dates. So for that tour, I went overboard. I wrote about it, discussed it here on the Deadology podcast, listened to it, and all the time on the 40th anniversary of that tour, I neglected the wonderful 1983 East Coast tour, which started April 9th in Hampton. And one of the, probably, I don't know if it's the best show of the tour, but it's definitely up there, was the Binghamton show. Very exciting night. So we're going to take a look at that tonight. 1983. So I saw the Dead for the first time in 1981. Saw them about 10 times more in 82. 1983, I was over the top, enthusiastic, filled with fervor for the Grateful Dead. And what a great time to think back. Just think of those days when you got into the Grateful Dead and when it kicked in where you had to give everything up to go see the Grateful Dead. That's where I was at the start of 1983. Also on tonight's episode, after I talk about the Binghamton show and the spring tour of 1983, I'm going to do a new feature, my weekly album of the week. This week, it's a masterpiece from 2006, Bob Dylan's Modern Times. On the spring tour of 83, I was fortunate to catch 11 of 13 shows on the East Coast, and it all began April 9th, Hampton Coliseum. It was a road trip. I'm in my 78 maroon Chevy Caprice Classic. I pick up my friend Doug, who I've seen many shows with over the years, and he introduced me to three guys who would sit in our back seat. They went by the names Stemple, Genoa, and Biha. These were quiet cats, and I wasn't sure if these were their first names, last names, or nicknames, but anyway, their names seemed to do all the talking. So we're digging the ride past the going down the Jersey Turnpike, Philly, all the way to Hampton, Virginia, and we hit that where you start going west, and all of a sudden you got to go over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and man, what an experience that was for the first time. This is 1983, so you don't have a preview. You know, you're looking at road maps. I kind of understood that this was going to be a long bridge, but goddamn, we were stoned out of our minds. And we get on that bridge, and it's 15, 20 minutes. I'd estimate 12, 13 miles, whatever it was. Massive seagulls coming at you. Cloudy day. And we're just digging the Grateful Dead. Stoned. Did I mention that? We were stoned. And we're driving over this massive body of water on this little lane of highway with cars coming in, little highway, a bridge with cars coming in the other direction. It was crazy, man. It was like enormous seagulls coming at you, like driving into an Alfred Hitchcock movie or something with the Grateful Dead as a soundtrack. And our destination was the mothership, Hampton Coliseum. So on that night, the coolest thing, we heard rumors that the Grateful Dead had brought back Help on the Way Slipknot Franklin's, which they hadn't played since 1977. You know, and back in those days, you hear rumors, you don't know 100% if they're true. So the Grateful Dead came out in that second set and they played Help on the Way. And just it was such a treat to hear that. It was so exciting. It was really, really good performance, good show in Hampton. I think they did a Satisfaction. They did it going down the road, maybe a Satisfaction encore, hot show. Next night, we're didn't get to stay in Hampton too long. Off to Morgantown, West Virginia University. They played up there. It was an okay show, but I'll never forget that ride up there, man. Old weird America, the back roads of the Virginias, man. Just this is what a road trip should be, man. We're living the Jack Kerouac dream out there. And at the time, I hadn't even read On the Road, so it was like some real life on the road experience. And then settled back home for a day off. The Grateful Dead, all the Deadheads had a day off. April 12th, we're off to Binghamton. And by the way, April 12th is an incredible day in Grateful Dead history. So many great shows. But for Jerry Garcia, that was the day he joined the Army, April 12th, 1960. 23 years later in Binghamton, there was an army of Deadheads under his command and the Grateful Dead's command. So we head up to Binghamton, Broome County Arena. What a little history that place had, but their first show there was November 6th, 1977, opened up with a half-step jackstraw, an absolutely dynamic show. Great first set, great second set. One of the upper echelon shows from an amazing year in Grateful Dead history, the last East Coast show of the tour. And I remember from listening to that tape, the Binghamton crowd was so rowdy and so into it. So a great night in Binghamton. They played there again 2 years later. Opened up with a Sugaree. May 9th was the date in 79. And this was the third and last show in the Broome County Arena, a place that had great audio sound. You could hear it on the tapes. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense how a place sounds so good, but this place had a great sound to it. And we take the journey up. Once again, Doug's in the passenger seat, and my friend Perry was there. Somebody else. We're taking the ride. I pick up Doug in Albany. We're going to Binghamton. We're feeling good. Driving 80 all the way. And then we get pulled over by, I slowed up a little bit. We're getting close to Binghamton. I figured, hey, I've done 80 all the way up here. Let me chill out a little bit. My friend's like, oh, come on, man. Just keep going. We needed to get tickets. We didn't have tickets. For some reason, we didn't have tickets for that show. Over 90% of the shows I went to, I always had tickets, but none of us had tickets for Binghamton. So they're like, come on, man, just keep speeding. Of course, 5 minutes away from Binghamton, we get pulled over. And in this car, this was like a Hunter Thompson automobile in Las Vegas getting pulled over. We had that much illegal narcotics in the car. We had copious amounts of coke, LSD, weed. I mean, it was crazy. I don't think I ever drove around with more drugs in my car. And the beautiful thing was, even though I was 20 miles over the speed limit, and it was beyond a speeding ticket, it was like reckless endangerment or something like that, the cop was just interested in giving me the ticket and moving on. No search was involved, and we dodged a bullet there. We get to Binghamton. I got a ticket for $40. Everybody got their tickets. I think same price. And not much bargaining. This is the Grateful Dead in 1983, man. Whatever it takes, whatever amount of money you want. And back then, concerts were so inexpensive and so worthwhile. It was $40, nothing, man. Here you go. And what a memorable night that $40 got me. So Dead open up, Alabama Getaway, Greatest Story, and pretty typical opener. And then the night begins to take off with Birdsong. Very cool version of Birdsong. Just to get a masterpiece song like that so early in the show told you of the band's intention. They were feeling the vibe in Binghamton. There was definitely something about this place that brought out the best in the Grateful Dead. And Jerry's like, hey, let's give them the Birdsong early. Show them we're here tonight and we mean business. And so a good version of Birdsong, Minglewood Blues followed. So far, you can't rave. I can't rave about anything. Any of the performances being great, but that all changes with song number 5. The show steps into that, into the. They just take it up 20 notches, man. Jerry jumps into Sweet Peggy-O. Jerry's voice is angelic, and the guitar solo rips. So the show is headed to Bound for Glory. Next song, Cassidy. And that's one of the amazing things about this show is just the song selection. Like it's a 10 out of 10 night. You're out in the audience. Everything you want to hear is popping up at the right spot. And Cassidy in the 6th spot of the set. It's a wonderful thing. And this is one of the hottest versions up to that point. I think the best one is from the Brendan Byrne, November 10th, 85. But this Cassidy is just absolutely steaming. And what I'm gonna play for you is an audience recording of the show. I listened to the soundboard in preparation, and it just didn't sound right, man. There's a little Brent heavy, not enough Jerry. But on this one, you hear Jerry loud and clear. The crowd's totally into it, and Phil's bass isn't crunching. So enjoy one of the greatest Cassidy jams you'll ever hear. Crowd's loving it, the joint is jumping, and the Grateful Dead are smoking. April 12th, 1983. So we're midway through the first set. After Cassidy, they follow up with Loser. And when I listened to this, I had no memory of how hot this Loser solo was. It's incredible, and Jerry's just singing with all his heart and soul. I'm going to play that for you momentarily, but let me just finish up a little review of the first set. 3 songs remain after Loser. We got It's All Over Now. And once again, as I'm listening to this tape, this is a totally engaging version of It's All Over Now. Sometimes the song, I think, just kind of slogged on a little too long, especially in the late years when they played it. But this version, just on the money, everything is right on. Jerry smoking, Bob, just like a perfect version of It's All Over Now. And the great songs continue flowing out. Just incredible inspiration on this night. They bring it back to 1969 for Little Dupree's Diamond Blues, a song which they just brought back in 1982. And this time period is my favorite Dupree's. I just love the electric sound of the version. And if I'm gonna, I might as well. I think I mentioned it on a podcast before, but I think the best version ever is Frost Amphitheater, October 9th, 82. This one, Jerry's just singing it so well in Binghamton that the band just skipped one of the instrumentals. Usually get two instrumentals. This one, they only did one. A short Dupree's Diamond Blues, but on the money, very exciting, keeps the show rolling. And they break out Let It Grow to end the set. And I mean, what can you say about Let It Grow? From 1974 to 1986, every time the Grateful Dead played that, I don't know. It's find the North version of it. I can't. They only played it when they were in the right mood, on a right roll, and they definitely were in Binghamton. This is very hot. All the nuance and jazzy playing, and Garcia's all over it. The band's right on, very crisp. I couldn't put this in my top 5 or anything, but it's definitely up there. Another great version from this period. So, man, I was in heaven. What a first set that was in Binghamton. And without further ado, let's go back to the audio. Hear that amazing loser and the way Jerry sings coming out of the break.
I've got no chance of losing this time. I've got no chance of losing this time.
It's one of those nights in Binghamton, and so it rolls forth. Set 2 begins with, at the time, what was the Holy Grail, Help on the Way, Slipknot, Franklin's Tower. Once again, so exciting, and just hats off to the Grateful Dead, man. They bring this song back, and this tour, so they play it March in Compton Terrace. They played it, I think, in Irvine was the other time. So Help on the Way, Slipknot, Franklin's is back. They do the East Coast tour. The first show, Hampton, they're like, here it is. We're giving it to everybody. They give it to Hampton. They give it to Binghamton here on April 12th. At the Brendan Byrne Arena, April 17th, they play the third version of the tour. They played the Brendan Byrne. This is the first time they played the Brendan Byrne Arena. Great shows. Stephen Stills was there on the 16th and 17th. 16th, he did Black Queen. 17th, he did Love the One You're With from his great eponymous album, Stephen Stills. And so they played on the 17th. The 22nd in New Haven, they play it again. That's 4 Help on the Way Slipknots. And for the 5th time out of 13th show, they bring it to Philly in the Philly Spectrum, April 26th. And just thinking about some of these shows were so great from this tour. I probably did an injustice underrating it compared to the fall tour. It's right up there with the fall tour of '83. Just such creativity throughout these shows. So Help on the Way Slipknot Franklin's to open in Binghamton. The Slipknot is the noticeable hot point of this, very hot Slipknot. But the Help on the Way Slip Franklin's would get hotter as the year rolls along. The Madison Square Garden version, October 12th, 83 is king. But they did so many great versions moving forward, 83 into 84. Just a triumphant return for one of the great Grateful Dead original combos, man. Help on the Way Slipknot Franklin's, can't beat it. But then Bob Weir says, hey, here's my combo, and it's an amazing combo. Too bad he didn't stick with it throughout, all the way through 95. Lost Sailor, Saint of Circumstance. And so far you're getting, just think of being at this show. Help on the Way Slipknot Franklin's, Sailor Saint. An awesome pre-drums. Anybody would be completely satisfied with that. But this was Binghamton. The crowd was on fire. And Jerry breaks out the Terrapin. So you got the national anthem of Deadhead's Terrapin Station. Everything was at a fever pitch. If you're at this show, you couldn't have been happier or more thrilled. Now, listening to it on tape, everything's good. I mean, they're definitely, there's no warp versions here, but nothing is like crazy exceptional that I would keep going back to the tape, and that's probably why I haven't listened to this in a while. So great, really great pre-drums. You're there, you couldn't ask for more. So the experience of being there is a 10 out of 10. It beats listening to the tape, but the tape still, you're in that 8 to 9 territory. Definitely a tape you got to listen to if you love the Grateful Dead. So then drums, space, break into the other one. Good other one, especially the second solo on it, followed by a War Frat, and everything's just grabbing you at this show. And then they break into Not Fade Away. And this Not Fade Away it's different, man. So they come to the end of it, and then they're breaking into this Not Fade Away chant, and Weir's yelling, you gotta sing it. And everybody in Broome County Arena is like caught up in the fever. They're singing along with the Not Fade Away. It's like a wild tribal experience, man. And I'm 100% caught up in it. And of course, this will become commonplace. So really, the Not Fade Away chant started in out west in '83. I forget the exact dates of it. Before it came to, this was the second time they did this prolonged Not Fade Away chant and the show. And the first time I seen it, I was in heaven. I'm like, this is incredible. They leave the stage, and I'm wondering what's going on. They come back, and the Not Fade Away chant starts again. The crowd's chanting Not Fade Away. The drummers beat into it. Weir steps up to the mic, Not Fade Away. So they're doing it again. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? We're gonna get a third set. I've never heard anything like this before. And then they break into Baby Blue, which is the last song of the night. Phenomenal, Baby Blue. But back to Not Fade Away. So they start this chant, which would become such an iconic part of a Grateful Dead show. 2 nights later in Rochester, or it was 3 nights later. It was they played in Maine 41383. Oh, no, it wasn't Maine. It was Vermont, Burlington, Vermont 41383. Great Jack Straw from that show, by the way. So they played there. They took an off night. Then they played in Rochester. I didn't see the Vermont show, but I was in Maine. And they played Throwing Stones, Into Not Fade Away, and they did the same thing again. I was out there. I was like, sweet Jesus, I hope this doesn't become a regular thing where they do this, because they knew they were onto something. It was so sweeping, so encapsulating for a crowd, especially if you're not someone who sees the Grateful Dead 20, 30 times a year. But for those of us who've seen it 20, 30 times a year, the Not Fade Away chant would become a little gimmicky, unless they played a great post drums. The Not Fade Away thing, it grew on me. The second time I seen it, I loathed it. But on nights where they played a good after drums, I was all caught up in the rapture of the Not Fade Away thing. It was fun, but yeah, it was a mixed thing. But the first time I seen it in Binghamton, I gotta admit, I was totally sucked up into the experience, especially the way they came back into the encore, doing the Not Fade Away again. And so Jerry sings Baby Blue, and goddamn, this Baby Blue, I always come back to this Binghamton Baby Blue. My favorite, man. I think it's the best one the Grateful Dead ever did. And just the singing, the guitar solo, strike another match, go start anew, forget about the dead you left, they will not follow you. The way Jerry sings these lines, just pouring his heart and soul into it. So my further words will do it no justice, so here it is. The encore of April 12th, 1983. It's All Over Now, comma, Baby Blue.
baby blue. It's all over now, baby blue.
Strike another match. Go start anew. It was a magical night on April 12th, 83 in Binghamton. Baby Blue. Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead, so good together. Hey, it's time for a transition into the album of the week. Modern Times, Bob Dylan, 2006. And for album of the week, I'm simply taking what I've been listening most to that week, and usually it's a pretty damn good album if it tears me away from the Grateful Dead for a little bit. And I put on Modern Times, and I had to keep replaying it this past week. Brings me back to, I was touring a lot, seeing a lot of Bob Dylan back in 2006, 2007. I was traveling around the world and just enjoying the whole Bob Dylan never-ending tour thing, and he came out with Modern Times, I believe it was September 2006, and I was just obsessed with this album for like years straight. Bob Dylan reinvents himself with a trilogy of albums at the turn of the century, 1997, Time Out of Mind, album which just stunned critics. New Bob Dylan fans were reborn. Such a great album. Wins a Grammy Award. 4 years later, back to the studio in New York City under the producer name of Jack Frost. Kills it again with Love and Theft. Just phenomenal albums. And pretty much the last of... most people look at this as a trilogy. As Modern Times in 2006. He had the great trilogy in 65, 66, which began with Bringing It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and Blonde on Blonde. But hey, when you're a young man and you're Bob Dylan, it all happened so quickly, 3 of the greatest albums ever. But these 3 albums that came out like later, just nobody does that at that point in their career when they're 56. Going into their 60s, so it's an incredible trilogy of Dylan stuff based on a lot of blues and his reworking of blues work and jazz and when you look at those 3 albums, any given time, like one day Love and Theft is the best of the 3. Another day, Time in the Mind. I listen to Time in the Mind. I'm like, that's the best. And then I listened to Modern Times, which I think might be the most underrated of the 3. As good as those 2, man. I freaking love Modern Times. Part of the reason I have such a strong feeling for it when I was seeing Bob Dylan during those years, 2006, 2007, that album was who he was as an artist. I mean, as a person, there probably is no other album which cuts right to the core of who Bob Dylan is at a given time, as Modern Times did. So it opens up with Thunder on the Mountain. For me, this is one of the great Bob Dylan tracks. I would have to put it in my top 50, which is when you're rating Dylan songs, anything in the top 50 is ridiculously brilliant. Could even get into the top 30 or so, but just brilliant lyrics and that opening instrumental fanfare, and the audacity of the rhymes he is using in there. My favorite line from that song, if I recall it correctly, gonna raise me an army, some tough son of bitches, recruit my army from the orphanages. I've been to St. Herman's Church, said my religious vows. I've sucked the milk out of 1,000 cows. How does he get away with that, man? It's such a genius, man. Just brilliant. Nobody else could rhyme like that. He's done it all through his career, but in modern times, it just comes so easily to him. And the song ends with that great instrumental fanfare. And I think Phil Lesh and Friends did a couple of versions of Thunder on the Mountain. Larry Campbell might have been in the band at the time. I didn't hear him, but I know that I've seen it somewhere that they did it. Thunder on the Mountain, gold, man. Just every time I hear that, I'm stoked, man. Such a great Dylan song. And then we get Spirit in the Water, song number 2. Lighthearted, ballad, fun-loving. Crowd was always psyched to see it. Dylan borrowing lines here and there from great blues masters. It was wonderful, like that pastiche that he would just put together a song pulling from so many influences, and at the same time using his own originality. Third song, Rolled and Tumbled, Muddy Waters, and on this album you got Rolled and Tumbled, you got Someday Baby, and When the Levee Breaks, just these classic blues numbers that he kind of reworked in his own way. But Rolled and Tumbled is the one I love, man. Even when they played that live, phenomenal song. The fourth song on this album, slow, beautiful ballad. Just the band's playing here is phenomenal. That's one of the things I love about this album is the musicians he had on it. It was Bob Dylan's touring band. Really the first time of the recent albums where we used his touring band. So you got Denny Freeman on guitar, excellent guitarist. I mean, Stu Kimball was also on this album. So Freeman and Kimball are on this album. The guitarists who rightfully get the most acclaim during Bob Dylan's Never Ending Tour, Larry Campbell and Charlie Sexton. Those guys are great, but there was just something about this particular band that had a certain snap to it, man. I'm so glad they went into the studio, recorded this album. You got Donnie Heron on steel guitar, violin, viola, mandolin. He pretty much took over. He didn't play guitar, but he took over the Larry Campbell spot in the band when Campbell left. And George Rosselli was there for many years, great drummer. And of course, Tony Gagne, man, the amazing bassist who's still there, who's been there since he took over in 1988 at the start of the Never Ending Tour. So that really, these guys playing and Dylan in the right frame of mind, it makes for such a great album. So when the deal goes down is the fourth song. And the thing that strikes me about this is Dylan sings beautiful. It's nice and slow, really heartfelt. If Jerry Garcia were alive, I guarantee you he would have played this song. I could just hear this with Jerry singing and taking the break, ripping a guitar solo like he did in I Shall Be Released or Forever Young. This was right up Jerry's alley. When the deal goes down, he would have covered that without a doubt. Fifth song, Someday Baby. Then you got in the sixth spot, probably the song of the album, Working Man Blues, number 2. Now, of course, Dylan's giving credit to Merle Haggard here, sing a little bit of these Working Man Blues, but it's a completely different song. It's not even, it's just a little respect to Haggard for singing about the Working Man Blues, but the lyrics and the performance by Dylan. And when we would see him in 2006, 2007, he'd walk around the stage with the microphone like an old-time crooner, and it was just so moving. I've seen grown men cry when listening to this song, me being one of them. Got a brand new suit and a brand new wife. I can live on rice and beans. Some people never worked a day in their life. They don't know what work even means. Meet me at the bottom, don't lag behind. Bring me my boots and shoes. You can hang back or fight your best on the front line. Sing a little bit of these working man blues. Ah man, what a great song. That's song number 7. Album rolls along, and there's just like this perfect pace between ballads and rockabilly songs and blues. Next song, Beyond the Horizon. Just the playing of the slide guitar here, and this has like such a Bing Crosby quality to it from like the 1940s, but not really. It's like Dylan's almost inventing a new genre of music here for an old-timey music. The Bells of St. Mary and the way he hangs onto the St. Mary part, just amazing singing. So the album's like upbeat and dark at the same time. And then Nettie Moore's the next song. Old folk favorite, but once again, Dylan just takes it into a new realm. The way the song starts off, it's so dark, but yet delicious. Lost John sitting on the railroad track. Something's out of whack. Just, yeah, so this Nettie Moore song, for as I was really getting into the album for many months at the beginning of getting this album, Modern Times, Nettie Moore was my favorite song, man. It's so great what Dylan does with this, and seeing him performing live. You know, these three albums, Love and Theft, Time Out of Mind, Modern Times. I wish Dylan was still playing so many songs, because they would fit in well with what he's doing. Yeah, the Rough and Rowdy I'm good with, but they're not even, that's not even on the same level as these albums. So yeah, I just wish Dylan would pluck in a couple of these tunes, because they so fit in well, and they seem to fit into the spirit of how he's playing and how he's feeling. So continuing on with Modern Times, When the Levee Breaks. Wow, man, such a great cover, man. So here we have Dylan pulling a great blues song from the past, about a year after the Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. So that there's like this continuity, the old and the past, just, you know, speaking what's happening and pulling it from the past, which is like the theme of these albums. You know, this big trilogy here. So when the Levee Breaks, I so enjoyed seeing that in concert. It's a great version on the album, and Dylan does enough with changing the lyrics that really makes it feel like an original, even though he's obviously paying tribute to the past and where it came from. Last song on the album, the darkest song, which is the way a Dylan album usually ends, or seems like the prototype Dylan album would end. Ain't Talking. And this is just like a slow-moving masterpiece from another era. You can never pin it down. It should be the theme of some dark movie or TV series. Ain't talking, just walking. And wow, just what he put into that, and hearing it live. And the crazy thing about an album like Modern Times, we would sing most of these songs live back then, and then Dylan could just move on, walk away from it, move into his new selection of songs, which he's done now with Rough and Rowdy Ways. But that 3-album trilogy, Love and Theft, well, Time Out of Mind first, Love and Theft, Modern Times, definitely one of the highlights of Dylan's career. And he's also got the Desire, Blood on the Tracks, Planet Waves things going. These little 3-album things he comes out with just will blow away anything he's ever done as a songwriter in their careers. So hats off to Bob Dylan and his late career, never-ending genius, man. We we are not worthy, man. So Modern Times 2006, definitely one of my favorites. So glad I came back to it this week, and it's the album of the week. Next week, we're Deadology, heading to Oakland for the December 26, 1979 show. Those New Year's Eve runs were so amazing. This one is immortalized on the Dick's Picks Volume 5 series, so get ready for that. And Merry Christmas, everybody. If you're looking for some gifts for people who like to read, Deadology Volume 1, Volume 2, available on my website, tangleupintunes.com, or on Amazon. You can find it. Howard F. Weiner. Got a bunch of Grateful Dead related books on there. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening, and speak to you next week. Peace out.